Welcome back, Billiken fans. It's Zach Miller, Peter Hale. This is the Midtown Madness Podcast. This episode and this whole season of the Midtown Madness Podcast is brought to you by Two Men in a Garden. That's right, the same company that delivers much-needed halftime electrolytes is now fueling this podcast with not only delicious pickles, but salsas, and most recently, they released a awesome Harissa sauce. Peter can attest to that. I'm a huge chips and salsa guy. I keep at least a jar in my fridge at all times, and they have every level of heat and flavor you could ask for. They're the real deal. Their products are delicious and, more importantly, local to St. Louis, just like the majority of this Billiken roster this year. You can pick up their many products at any local grocery stores or online at twomeninthegarden.com. Follow them on social at Two Men Salsa on Insta and Twitter. Peter, big news out there. Humphrey's is reopening. Yeah, officially.
It's coming soon. I don't think we have an official date, but we're really close.
Guys, we have breaking news. Breaking news to the show. We've got to pull this up right now. This is insane. It's actually not really news. It's just freaking awesome. Hold on. Wait, I got a screen share here. This is insane. Shout out Brian Spellacy for sending me this. Holy smokes. This is on Craigslist currently.
You know, a piece of merch is not breaking news. Just for the record.
I'm sorry. He literally just sent me this as I'm doing that ad read. I mean, like, Pete, whose jersey is this? Is that Dobbs? Is that Dobbs?
They think it's Martin Howell from 1986-87. What Zach is sharing right now for those listening and who are really confused. St. Louis 44 jersey from the 80s, two-tone blue, kind of a light blue and white striping around the collar and the armholes, and then it's a royal blue St. Louis 44. So it says here Martin Howell.
Yes.
86-87.
And the asking price is $125. He's got a lot of names here. He's got a bunch of names.
Yeah,
just
copy
for
down the roster.
But yeah, no. So that's, again, we're screen sharing this season. I don't know how this, but shout out Brian Spellacy. He just he literally texted me as I'm doing that ad read. I'm a little in one right now, so bear with us, Billiken fans. I'm hanging in there.
Yeah, I was gonna start this by saying Zach has been up since before dawn, I believe.
Yeah, that's true.
Raced a triathlon this morning. He actually won his age group, 30 to 39, an age group that for a brief moment we're both in still. And I would not win the age group, I can say that much. But yeah, so Zach is both very tired and exhausted and a little loopy, and maybe he had a few celebratory beverages this afternoon as well.
Also, shout out Bauman. I'm wearing this tank top for you today. Thanks for telling me not to wear a tank top, because now I'm going to wear a tank top every episode now.
It's tank top summer.
Yes. Sun's out, guns out. Actually, it's raining here in St. Louis. But, Peter, Humphrey's reopening. We don't have an official date, but it's happening. They did a soft opening / media circus type deal.
Yeah, they had Fox 2 News in who did a little piece on it. Again, we don't know what the date's going to be. Don't know all the specifics, but it's happening. It's happening soon. It sounds like it could be September sometime. And obviously we will let you all know as soon as it is, because that's very near and dear to our hearts, is the institution that is Humphreys.
Yes, and of course, shout out. We want to shout out Sarah Sanders Davis, who is part of the opening team, the new ownership. Can't thank her enough for bringing back an institution, something that was a part of both of our lives through my 5 years. It's your 4 years. And it's great to have them back in Midtown, and I couldn't be more excited to have another pitcher at Humphreys. So men's basketball, we have maybe the weirdest commitment in the history of SLU men's basketball. Well, let's say in the last decade, the weirdest commitment?
Yeah, it really is. And this is Daniel Rivera, a new commitment to SLU. And at first it was reported by Dave's Joint, which is kind of a New York City based I guess Twitter account, blog, what have you. He was reporting that Rivera was committed to SLU as a 2023 recruit. So to backpedal a little bit, he just finished his freshman season at Odessa College, which is one of the better JUCO D1 JUCO programs out there, and was going to be a sophomore there. And I guess the assumption was at first that he would be, coming to SLU as a 2023 recruit. But then we find out that it's actually going to be 2022, and he's already enrolled. So it was quite, it was whiplash there, Zach.
Yeah, it's super weird because, it was like, again, like you said, he announced his commitment and the post said 2023-24. And then you have Billikens win on Billikens.com saying, hey guys, this may not be what it seems, and there could be an announcement coming that says he is gonna. But he was vague, so like I think he implied that it may be an immediate entry. So, what do you think this means for our roster? And I mean, there were times on this show where we lamented the lack of front court depth. We add Momo the Monster. We had Jake Forrester, and now we had Daniel Rivera. I mean, we have incredible depth in the backcourt now. Now we have incredible depth in the front court.
Yeah, that's right. And Rivera, to be clear, he's kind of going to be a bit of a hybrid forward. I think he's probably listed at about 6'7", 215, so pretty similar size to Pickett. If you're going with just comps, and that's without, I think he might be a little bit longer, but regardless, so he's not. It's not like he's a pure front court player. He's he'll line up as a four for sure in the A10. One of the reasons though that this is so shocking to me is that we actually first offered Rivera back in 2019.
There's been an entire pandemic since we offered him.
That's absolutely right. I think it was September of 2019. He was a class of 2021 recruit out of high school. He went to Our Savior Lutheran in New York City, which is actually, it's not in the New York State program. It's like an independent prep school. I think like Link Academy down in Branson. They don't play for like the MSHSAA.
Branson, New York City, same difference.
Well, they're on a national circuit, so they actually play on what's called the grind session,
right,
which is like Hillcrest Prep, and you would recognize some of the other like national travel teams that play on it. So anyway, so he's playing there. He's a 2021 recruit. SLU offers him, Manhattan offers him, Bryant offers him, and then I hear nothing about his recruitment. Nothing about. Every once in a while, I'd see like a. As I do my research, I'd find like a box score or something that, maybe he had like 10 and 8 in a game or something. Almost nothing. He's got no social media presence, no Twitter, no Instagram. There's just absolutely a black hole of information on this kid. So when I flip the class over from 2021 and move on, all of those guys have a destination except him. I'm like, I don't know where this kid's going. And this is probably, what would this have been? 2 years ago? Wait, is that right? 1 year ago? Because because I moved on before he actually enrolled at Odessa College and did the JUCO year. So I had absolutely no idea that he had gone there. This is just a name that like popped back up, and it's not just that like, oh wow, he's at Odessa now. I didn't know that. It's like he's committed to SLU. He went from like being kind of a ghost to committed to SLU, and that's why this one was absolutely so shocking to me. But yeah, in terms of what he brings to the roster, I wouldn't expect, we have a pretty solid rotation of 9 kind of veteran players. I would not expect to see him right away. He was a good player as a freshman at Odessa. He didn't put up huge numbers, but they were one of the best teams in the country. They were bounced in the tournament by the number 1 overall seed. He's a really nice high. He's not much of a shooter, but I think he's going to be more of a slasher, efficient scorer inside. He'll be able to guard the 3, the 4. But again, I mean, this kind of came up out of nowhere, and it's been pretty wild.
I mean, I think like run down kind of because we have a running chat, kind of the main Twitter. How do I don't know how to say this without sounding self-absorbed. The kind of the people that there's about 4 of us, right, in a group chat.
Uh-huh.
And like I found it because Meek Week or whatever. Sorry, dude. Like I don't like you're. I don't know your like. He tweeted at us and I looked. I tweeted out who the f is Daniel Rivera, and somebody in Chap Daddy said something, and I said he just committed SLU. He goes, "Excuse me." I go, I shared the link, and everybody's like, who is Daniel Rivera?
Yeah,
and I think you were the only person that had any clue who this guy was.
Yeah, and it's a guy I had not thought about in over a year. It was just kind of like, oh, I guess this guy's moved on. I don't know what he's going to do.
Like many of my ex-girlfriends.
That's right. And yeah, the ghosted. He was a total mystery to me, and then just popped back up. It was really a shock to me. But I think they also discovered he does have, like, I don't know if it's hyphenated, but 2 last names, Rivera Compres, because his older brother actually played with him at Odessa, and there's some highlights of him, Rivera Compres. Mike, I think, is his brother.
And it kind of like it went down this rabbit hole of, we got the tweet. I told you guys about it. West Pine Bill, or we tweeted out we tweeted about it. Billikens win goes on Billikens.com. Says he may be enrolling early, or at least implies it. And I shared that to you guys. And then West Pine Bills goes and looks in the people finder on SLU Net or whatever. I don't know. It's way beyond my capabilities. And says, hey, there's this guy, Daniel Rivera Compres. He is enrolled at SLU.
Yeah.
It just was this rolling ball of it was like Temple of Doom. And it was.
And it happened within minutes as well.
Yeah.
I mean, we went from hey, we have a new commitment, to me being like, oh my God, it's him, this recruit who I knew nothing about, to being like, yeah, he's going to be 2023. No, wait, he's going to be 2022. Oh, he's enrolled already. And so, yeah. So, I mean, the other thing that this means is it's always been a question of what we do with that last scholarship, whether we use it or not. Well, here it is. The last scholarship's used. Some people have been speculating whether it makes more sense for him to enroll now or to stay committed to SLU and enroll next year. And, he would get more game action if he went back to Odessa, but by coming to SLU now, he gets, more of a jump start academically, strength practices, conditioning, all the resources that a D1 school has that a JUCO, even a good one, would not have. The only thing he's going to miss out is some game minutes. But by the time he gets playing next year, when a lot of guys move on, the roster opens up a little bit more. He'll have been practicing, playing here in the system, in the school, everything for another season. We talked about kind of a similar thing with Hughes Jr., who's not on scholarship this year. And I think most of us are thinking he probably will be next year. It just kind of makes sense to do it this way. So, yeah, excited to have him on board. He remains more of a mystery than any other player that we've had come in the recent past. But we're excited to have him, and I trust this staff's ability to judge and attract talent. So I'm sure there's something there.
Yeah, it is interesting because this staff seems to be rolling right now. It's you start to wonder, right? Is this staff killing it, or are they getting talent? I don't want to go into that, like, start talking shit about, like, the people we're getting, but, like, when you start rolling with commitments, you start to wonder, like, are these guys, like, really that good? Or are they just all committing because we've offered them and it's a great offer?
Yeah, I mean, look, we won't know until they all play here. And a lot of these guys, they're not, a lot of them are like kind of your 3-star level recruits. They're not the flashy 4 and 5 star guys for the most part.
Majerus
Um,
made his money on that.
I mean, absolutely. And this is more of a long-term roster building. I mean, we heard Ford kind of say for this upcoming class, he wants to do a lot of work in the high school in the 2023 class
It's an
and not
interesting
just on
move.
transfer. So I think he's going to really build out the depth of his roster with the freshmen that are incoming now and then the upcoming class, the guys who are committed, the guys we've been talking about lately. And then it's not going to be that many we don't have room for many transfers unless we have some surprise departures. We're only going to have a couple probably in the spring, tops. So he's really betting on the long-term viability of these players. And you're going to have Parker come back, and I will see what Thatch and Jimerson do. We don't know what they're going to do yet, but so you could have some real scoring punch come back on top of this younger core that he's building around. But it's pretty exciting to kind of see the program sort of you kind of see what it's going to be a year or two from now.
Yeah, let's talk about, like you said, a year or two from now, and recruiting never stops. We had Kachi's, just pronounce it for me.
Nzeh, I think is what we're going
Kachi
with.
Nzeh.
Yeah,
He visit.
Nzeh
Yeah,
is his last name.
he visited campus on the 25th, 26th. First of 4 visits. He's not going to VCU. We all know that. No, I don't know. Yeah, what does he bring to the front court? He's a big man. He's raw, but he's talented.
Yeah, so like Momo, who you just mentioned a minute ago, he's only been playing a few years, and he's about 6'9". He's got a 7'3" wingspan. He plays a power forward. He plays for a George school, which is a private school up in Upper Darby, Pennsylvania, which is Philly area. And like I said, raw, but man, is he gifted. He's got great length. He's got really good athleticism. He moves well for his size. He if he's got space and he's got the ball near the rim, he dunks hard, like French style dunks hard.
Like
Love
the
that.
and one logo hard.
Absolutely brings his legs way up. I mean, like, yeah, like dunks angry. I like it a lot. He blocks shots, rebounds. He says he can guard a 3 to a 5. He's got the length to guard a 5 in the A10. He's got the kind of the foot speed to guard a 3. He's a nice player, and SLU is one of his finalists along with Iowa, VCU, and Xavier. And we got the first visit, which I personally like. What are you laughing at, Zach?
West Pine Bills. Tonight at the soccer game is bucket hat night. They've been crying for a bucket hat for weeks now.
More breaking news, and it's merch related.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yeah. So Enze, anyway, first the first of his
Sorry.
4 visits, and we should be excited about this because like when you project out our front court right now, you've got Momo, you've got Brock Weiss, who's kind of the stretch 5, 6'10", can shoot it, and then you've got Rivera now, who's kind of a hybrid forward. This guy would tie that whole front court together. You've got a true center, stretch. You got a guy who's got more of a 3 or 4. Here's your power forward. You can line him up with any of those 3 guys. Throw different looks at the front court against other teams, and man, does he have us like NBA high ceiling. I mean, he's really got a high ceiling. So this is an exciting recruit.
Yeah, I think Travis is starting to really round into form as a recruiter and a roster builder with this program. Because honestly, this is like the team this year is his most complete team since he's been here.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm talking guard depth, front court depth. As I mentioned in the outset, like there's so many we have so many guards, so many forwards. Like, we've never had more than like 2 or 3 forwards. Now we have 4. And I think he's starting to get a lot better at kind of keeping that balance to the roster.
Yeah, I think so. The knock on Ford, both at SLU, Oklahoma State, has always been too many wing. Like he's so deep at wing and doesn't have a lot of depth. And he's kind of like, "Oh, I can make this guy more of a 4 or 5, or I can make him more of a point guard." He is, and I don't want to say he's like building more of a traditional 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but he's definitely finding guys who have, um, you know, different skill sets, more versatile skill sets. I think he likes the idea of being able to throw some different looks at the teams we play.
Speaking of recruiting extraordinaire, CN Medley. I love this kid. This kid is drinking the blue Kool-Aid more than anybody on Billikens.com, anybody on Billiken Twitter. This kid is all in. He's recruiting. Like, it doesn't even seem forced. It just seems like he loves this team and he wants people to come play with him.
He seems genuinely very excited. Yeah, Sion Medley is the new point guard, Yuri's heir apparent, the kid from Camden, New Jersey. If you're curious, follow him at Trey Ball C, TREYBALLC, on Twitter, and you'll see that every time we have a visit, we have an offer, we have a commitment, he's all over it on Twitter. He's like he tweeted at Nzeh, who he knows actually because they're both Philly area, just across the river, and he's like, there's only one choice. Like when Nzeh put up his finalists, and then he goes on his visit and he's tweeting at him again. I mean, like he's pretty aggressive. He's very, very positive. I mean, I love it. I love what he's doing on social media. Super hyped about SLU.
Yeah, hyped on SLU and people tweeting about SLU and all this shit. There's a lot going on Billikens.com. And I want to get to that, but I want to get to women's basketball first.
Yeah.
Because the non-conference schedule was released, and it is a gauntlet. I mean, we talked about Katie Shields. We talked about Kevin Kalish building gauntlet schedules. Coach Tillett isn't effing around.
I give her a lot of credit.
She has got bigger cojones than I do.
In her first year, she has put together maybe the hardest schedule I've seen in SLU women's basketball history. And that's just off of the top of my head. I may be wrong. Maybe we had harder schedules in the past, but I certainly can't think of one. This is incredible.
Not under Stone.
No, not under Stone. I don't think under.
I can't think about Jill. Well, Jill is different because Shimmy. Sorry,
I mean, both of them. Those were the two before.
Shimmy had some tough schedules. She would play like Washington, Florida. Oh, I think that's just where she coached. But I think Shimmy had some tough schedules. Pizzotti's teams were so like mediocre to below mediocre that you wouldn't even know.
And they played, I mean, those teams did have the, strength of schedule benefit of playing in a tougher conference. I think Conference USA was probably a little harder than the A10. I don't think it's quite what it was on the men's side, with the Louisville, Memphis, Cincinnati type programs of the world. But regardless, she did have that advantage. But man, I don't think we've had a non-conference schedule like this. I'm just going to say it's the hardest ever, because when you looked at it, you've got this Gulf Coast Challenge, which we already talked about, which SLU is clearly the 8th seed, and they're going to start out with Baylor. Then they're going to play Belmont or Villanova, which are both very good teams. And then they're going to play a third team, and that team is, at worst, a team that had a winning record last year. This whole schedule put together, they're gonna end up with, let's see, in addition to those three, Northern Iowa, Missouri State, Mizzou, all on the road. Those are three top.
South Dakota?
Yeah, South Dakota and SIUC at home. Every single team that we just named is a top 100 net team from last season.
And I believe South Dakota is coached by a coach that had talked about for a possible, head coach for the Billikens. And I think Ty Margenthaler is at South Dakota, or he's at the state.
Right. Yeah,
Is he at South Dakota or State?
It's South Dakota, the Coyotes. Yeah, he's an assistant there.
So that's a little
Right.
underlining
Yep.
storyline.
So he was an assistant under Lisa Stone at SLU, for those who aren't aware. So yeah, depending on the third game of that one event, although I think maybe both of those teams played in the NIT as well. But we're gonna play at least 10, maybe 11 teams that played in the postseason last year in this non-conference, which is incredible because that's over 2/3 of the whole non-conference schedule. The other home games you've got here, you've got an exhibition against Maryville, SIUE, Green Bay, Illinois State, Wichita State. The other away games are Indiana State, Ball State, Memphis. Now, none of these teams were top 100 or NCAA tournament teams last
They're all
year.
names, though.
They're all that's exactly what I was just going to say. There's not one school on there that our fans look at and go, "What? I've never heard of that." Like, there's none of that.
There's no Paul Quinn.
There no, and yeah, which is like nothing against them, but
not at all. It's just
back to
who the hell is Paul Quinn, right?
These are all names that a St. Louis college sports fan at all would recognize. Every single one of these schools. It's an incredible schedule. I mean, there's like no real filler here. It's I can't believe she's taken on this level schedule in her first year, as she's like kind of putting her all her transfers together with her.
Well, she really hasn't added new players. They're all the same.
I mean, she has a lot of confidence in what she has, and I give her all the credit in the world, because this really is what Katie Shields put together for the women's soccer team, which is like a serious test every night. It's pretty incredible to take this on in your first year. Is there anything about it you don't like, or you would have done differently, or are you just
hell no? Hell no.
Yeah,
that's a gauntlet. That is an absolute, like, it's sink or swim, man. Like, that's I love it. I you know what? Again, like, I could sit here and tell you about how skeptical I was of this hire, and I'm still cautious, and I want to see how our team does on the court. But I mean, she's doing all the right things.
And the other point I'll make with this is putting together strength of schedule like this in the A10 is pretty remarkable. And I think Stone actually did a pretty good job with it too.
She did.
Because there are, I would say, 2/3 of the programs on the women's side of this conference do not schedule hard at all. Like St. Bonaventure, I think I remember last season, coming into conference play, they were like 10-5 or 11-4, and their net was like 250 because they had just played all the worst teams in D1. It was like, it's like, what are you doing? Like, so all these teams had winning records against horrible schedules.
Yeah.
And then you come into conference, and SLU had like 7 players who weren't injured for the year last year, and kind of held their own against the league. And yeah, I think they're better this year as long as they stay healthy.
Look, I think there's something to be said about having an average schedule and playing well against that schedule and making your money by showing that you have a decent team that plays well against an average schedule and wins your conference.
Right.
If you go into this schedule and sink, nobody's blaming you. In your first year, nobody's going to freak out.
Right.
So I get it in that sense. But again, if you swim, holy shit.
Yeah. Oh, for real. For real.
If you get out there and you like, if you go, 500, 600 for the year or for the non-conference, congratulations. Here's an extra 2 years.
If they go 500 in non-conference, I would be so impressed.
Oh, I'd be,
because that means they've picked off at least 2 top 100 teams.
I'm all in on
and then
Tillett.
Beating everybody that they should have. I mean, that would be so impressive.
I mean, this is how you should do it in the A10.
Yeah.
This is what volleyball needs to do. You test yourself in the non-conference. and you show your team that we're going to play teams that are so much better than anybody in our conference, and we're going to learn from it, and we're going to go into the A10 and we're going to kick everyone's ass because we're going to be ready for them. This is what you do.
Yeah, I
Again, I'm sitting here as a person who was not happy with this hire initially. No, hold on. Let me rephrase that.
Skeptical.
I was skeptical. I didn't get it. But this is how you schedule the A10, especially in women's sports. Because the A10 is not good in women's sports. It's what Katie Shields is doing. It's what she's taking a lesson from Katie Shields. This is what volleyball needs to do.
Yeah.
End of story. Pete, before we get into the Billikens.com shenanigans, talk to our people about 2 Men in a Garden one more time.
So I think I told people last week that I bought a few new jars that I was excited to get into, and I've only done one since then, which was the spicy mango salsa. Was the only fruited one I haven't gotten to yet, and I think it's my favorite of all of them. I think mango just works in salsa.
Yes, it does. Mango habanero is my shit.
Oh, mango is just undefeated. It just works. Strongly recommend it. I know Zach has said before, these salsas definitely run on the chunky side. And I know Zach likes to drop an immersion blender in there or just pour them all into his blend. I don't know his blending.
Yeah, a little ninja action.
Yeah. So that's if it's a little too chunky for you, a quick hit with a blender and it's perfect. But I didn't on this one because I like the whole mango in there. And that jar got me through the week, and it was delicious. It was perfect. I hid it from my children, so they would not. Are your kids
big salsa fans?
Yeah, this one might be a little too spicy because it's definitely got a little more heat than the peach or the strawberry ones, and they definitely demolished that strawberry salsa. So I had to make sure they didn't see this one. But yeah, strong recommend for the spicy peach, or sorry, the spicy mango from 2 Men in a Garden. It's just spot on.
So I want to talk about Billikens.com. But no, look, so I don't want to talk about I don't want to talk about specifics. I want to talk about the idea that anybody gives a shit about the message board that isn't the posters on the message board.
Yeah.
Because here's my question to you. Does anybody read this shit and care any iota about what is said? I mean, seriously. Like, at the end of the day, if there's a thread about Rivera, Daniel Rivera, and people start off on a tangent, does anybody care? Does Daniel Rivera even care to look at it? Does Daniel Rivera look at that and say, these people are freaking crazy, I'm not going to sue? Does Daniel Rivera look at those people and say, those people are freaking crazy, okay, whatever, who cares?
So, okay, I have a lot of thoughts on
this. This is why. This is, again, we talked about filler, right?
Yeah.
We talked about filler earlier in the show. This is what I texted you earlier. I said, it's filler for the show, but it's interesting filler because it really is an interesting topic because I don't think that anybody cares. It's like, it's our own little sandbox. It's our own little playground. And it's anybody who's outside of this stupid fanhood that we have. And again, sports fanhood's not stupid. It's like, I'm not insulting anybody. I'm just saying it's petty. It's crazy. We're sports fans. You know, it's like that ESPN commercial. But everybody knows it's crazy. And nobody cares outside of our little bubble, in my opinion.
So the thing I will add to that, so a few things. First, a little background, because I do know that we have some portion of this audience who does not read the board, who doesn't go there. It's a message board.
Bless them.
It's been around since the 90s. And it's kind of the online forum for
it's probably the last good message board.
It actually, for the usually.
Well, no, good. I mean, like, it's probably the last college sports message board that isn't an absolute dumpster fire.
So a lot of online interaction with fans has moved to Twitter, it's moved to
Reddit.
Facebook. It's moved to,
Reddit.
sometimes there are Reddit, sometimes there are Discord,
Hmm.
or there are forums attached to the membership sites like 24/7 or
Right.
Rivals, who people might who pay. That's really going to be the power conference teams for the most part, but this, for whatever reason, has stuck and it's worked. And the guy who runs it does a really nice job running it. He's a great guy. He's actually a professor at SLU now. Funny enough, he started it when he was a kid.
I mean, I couldn't. He said he was 38. I thought he was like
Oh
45.
yeah, yeah. I knew he was almost my age.
Well,
Yeah.
I thought he was way older than me because I can remember like being enamored with Sign Guy when I was
Oh yeah. No, he was
like a
a
kid.
kid when he started this
Yeah,
thing.
no, that like in my mind, Steve was like I don't know, 20.
Yeah.
Like when I was like a 8 to 10, but in
S-
reality he was like 6 years. 6 years. It was like it's like the babysitter you had that was like he
Yeah,
could just
3 years
dial
older.
the phone like a little bit better. It's
Right,
like that
right.
Mulaney joke. Yeah.
So that's the background of kind of what this is and what we're talking about. So this is still kind of the hub of where a lot of
That
the most dedicated fans are, and sharing information, getting information. But especially in the off season, but all year round, you have threads about very specific things that get completely derailed by nonsense. Recently, like there's a different recruiting thread for every class, and one of them just had pages and pages of guys talking about their favorite all-time sitcoms. So reasonably, if a recruit were to Google his name, which I know happens, recruits and their parents do Google their names. Billikens.com threads about them pop up, because we talk about recruits, we get in depth, and then there's like pages of people talking about sitcoms that have been off the air since before I was born, almost 40 years ago. You're like, God, there's no way a
I think it's
17-year-old
funny. I
recruit
find it
knows who
funny.
Bob Newhart is. It's so stupid.
But
So,
that's the kind of stuff that I find funny.
well, yeah, but you also said earlier that you don't think anyone pays attention or knows what it is. No, people aren't seeking out, recruits aren't seeking out that forum. But like I said, they Google their name, or they might hear something referred to, and they wind up there. You would be surprised how many times I've heard, or I guess seen, um, people find either themselves or their kids or whatever referred to on there. Like it'll show up on, like, recently. I was looking up, doing some updates on some recruits, and I saw one of the recruits' parents had found, a post about her son there, and loved the little write up, and like who was recruiting him, and kind of what
Are
his
you
skill set.
tooting your own horn here?
Yeah, I'm the one who did it, but the parent found it and then like posted a link to it on Twitter. So like, no, I don't think people are seeking it out, but yes, I do think people find it. And
Right.
you know, it's public, you're putting it out there. So when people are on there just being weird, like you're putting that out in the world. Like sometimes I think people think like no one else sees it except for the regular posters there, but there are a lot more people who read that regularly who don't post at all. And then there are even other people, maybe not more, but other people who find it one way or another, who end up there. And so like, I think when things go off the rails, sometimes it's innocent, it's fun, who cares? I just scroll past it. I ignore it. Sometimes there are people there though who post, like, I don't know, some pretty toxic stuff, like either mean things, or they're just ignorant things, and it's just like, stop. Like, don't put negativity in a place where that might be found in a way that is unproductive. And no, I don't think it's going to be make or break for our recruiting decision, but I can tell you 100% recruits get a vibe from a fan base on Twitter, on Instagram, on whatever social media platform they're using, on online. If they find pages and pages of just weird crap where they're right after they've, like, been mentioned or something like that, it kind of is going to just be somewhere in the back of their brain, like a negative vibe from a school. And I'm telling you, that's real, the same way that there's a positive vibe from a lot of fan bases. um when you're putting stuff out there into the world, be very conscious of what you're doing and who might see it, is all I'm saying. As someone who follows recruiting closely, I'm telling you, it does get found. So like, yeah, a lot of a lot of the stuff there is weird. Some of it is, I think, genuinely unhelpful, and like just don't. If you've got negative stuff to say, like just be very, very, careful. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, I wonder, like, I mean, with what is it, Daniel Rivera stuff, it went in on one single poster. I don't
Yes.
think anybody really cares.
Yeah.
Like, they read it and they're like, these people are weird. Okay. It doesn't have anything to do with Travis Ford or the basketball team. Like,
And right, and I think that's the case. And
now, if you're getting into, like, hey, this guy friggin' sucks, like, we don't want it, like, now you're getting into a territory that's like, or you're making fun of specifically the recruit, or
I've heard people say things about like recruits' names, for
being
example.
weird.
Yeah, I think so. Like what you're saying right there. Yeah, like don't do
Don't
that.
don't do that.
Period.
Like don't, like, if you want to take it off the rails, like, aim it at a poster. Don't aim it at the player.
Well, and
Like,
that's and to
yeah.
yeah, and that's what Zach's referring to is basically every time somebody commits, someone will start a thread that says, "Hey, welcome Daniel Rivera," and there will be posts about like who he is, his stats. Here's some video on him. Rivera, again, there's not a lot of information out there, and pretty quickly this devolved into one poster said something weird, and then everybody piled on that guy, and then there was a backlash to the backlash. So there's like one page of people being like, "Hey, this is cool. We've got a new recruit," and then like 3 or 4 pages of people arguing with each other over stupid nonsense.
And then Billiken fan oh 05 asking, I just wanted to know who the heck Daniel Rivera was.
Well, if it's
To be
anything
fair, now I know, and to be fair, I don't follow recruiting, and that's why Peter and I play off each other so well.
well, and it doesn't seem like he's a very online person to begin
No,
with,
he's
which was
not.
always why we never had any information on him relative to other recruits who are very online. I'm not worried about it. Look, I'm not worried
No.
about it at all. But like, I don't know.
D-
Just be nice. That's all I ask of people. Be nice. Be reasonable.
yes. The only time I'm worried about is if it comes down to, like, actual issues with how you're talking about the recruit.
In which case, I actually would say something. In those other threads that kind of
Yes.
go off the rails, I mostly just
I think it's funny most of the
ignore.
time, but I,
It,
I
it
enjoy
at a high
I
level,
enjoy the
yeah, it is.
chaos. I enjoy the chaos. I'm very Joker-ish in the Dark Knight. Um, uh,
I'm more of a rule follower. I cringe a little
we
bit.
know you are. That's why we play off each other well. Let's move on to women's soccer. Number 19. Well, probably no longer ranked. Number 19. Maybe, I don't know. Notre Dame was pretty good. 2-0 loss versus Notre Dame on the 25th. The attendance was outstanding in this one. 4,273. Second most in program history, short of the 5,000 fan goal. Coach Shield told us. Still really, really good, Pete.
Yeah, still great. Didn't get the record, but it was still second most ever. Unfortunately, bad weather sent
Mm-hmm.
most of them home late in the first half, Zach.
Yeah, including this guy and his mother.
Yeah.
We had to head out. I mean, it was a long delay. Unfortunately, I just couldn't hang in there. I want to say that I gotta throw a fan under the bus who was standing by us. I believe he said how many games into the season before Puricelli gives up a goal, and one game. So yeah, not great. Play resumed, scoreless at halftime. Notre Dame got two in the second half. Groark took down Corbin Albert just outside the box, and she hit a pill, Peter.
Yeah, it was. She curled it just around our wall. Perfect free kick. Puricelli had no chance at all with
Not a
this one.
single chance in
It's
hell.
that. Yeah. So even though he says how long before she gives up a goal, this is one like nobody would have stopped. Professional at any level would not have stopped
It
that kick.
was
She
a
just placed.
world class goal.
Yeah, placed it perfectly.
Notre Dame Katie Hauk given a soft yellow on a challenge in midfield, slew down a player the rest of the game. A dangerous cross later in the half, bounced into Puricelli, who got her hands on it, and Sophia Fisher chipped in the rebound. It just wasn't Slew's night, Pete.
No, Puricelli was a little deep on this one. It was a deep cross from the left corner, and she was kind of far back in the net. So by the time the cross kind of skipped over, she dove out, you know, away from the end line basically, and hit it out toward the top of the box, and right to a Notre Dame player, unfortunately.
Yeah, it really felt like the Billikens were like they were waiting for the game to come to them, but waiting about a half second too long. It just felt like Notre Dame was making the plays, and Slew was waiting for the plays to come to them.
I think that's exactly right. Notre Dame pressed, they attacked, they had Slew on their heels the whole game. It looked like.
Yeah, it was nervy. It was nervy the entirety of that first half until the lightning delay. You could feel it in the stadium. Everyone was pretty nervous. Notre Dame just absolutely dominated that game. Outshot the Billikens 16-2, 9-1 on net, 11-1 on corner kicks.
Yeah, I mean that kind of says it all.
Yeah. The Billikens bounced back today, Sunday the 28th. A 5-0 win at Kansas City. They beat those Kangaroos 5-0. It was another and a half. Got a little nervous there, Pete.
Yeah, you kind of thought like, look, Kansas City's not a bad program. They're really good on the men's side, and then you kind of thought like, man, what happened at that Notre Dame? Because before Notre Dame,
I thought going into that Notre Dame game, I honestly I thought the Billikens may have been drinking the Kool-Aid a little too much.
Maybe. I mean, at the very least, I thought they were going to give Notre Dame more of a game. And Notre Dame's kind of been that team that they just can't get past. They ended their season in the tournament a few years ago. Coach talked about that regular season game against them. That Notre Dame just kind of seems to have their number, which is frustrating. And I thought they were going to give them a little bit better game. So when they're scoreless at halftime at Kansas City, you're just kind of like, man, I hope that magic didn't get drained from what was happening in the first exhibitions in the first two games of this season. They only outshot Kansas City. They created a couple opportunities. They actually did have a header. Sophia Stram had a header off the crossbar off a corner kick in like the 44th minute. So right at the end of the half, they just couldn't put anything on goal. They had a few opportunities, but Zach, then things kind of changed in the second half.
Yeah, the floodgates open for the Billikens. Brie Halverson service into the box. It didn't look dangerous, but just kind of a weird header from the Kansas City player back into the left.
Yeah,
so
exactly. It was. Yeah.
Thanks, JFK. It went in the net. I don't know. Keeper just couldn't get to it. It's an own goal for the against Kansas City. Right after that, Slew had a goal called offsides. 54th minute, Lindsay Heckel PK saved, but put away her own rebound. 55th minute, Hannah Larson off a rebound, originally a corner kick from Caroline Kelly, got it headed up and bounced around a little before Larson was able to collect it, turn, and get a strong right foot on it.
Yeah.
78th minute, free kick from about 30 yards out. Lobbed it to Gaby, whose touch into the box, hit a KC defender's hands. Kelly buries the PK. 81st minute, Gaby had it on a 2-on-1 situation, decided to go it alone, had her first attempt stopped, got her own rebound, and finished the second. I'm seeing a lot of rebounds here, Pete.
This was not a game that was like full of highlights necessarily. Like you look at the score, the box score here, Slew outshot them 22-2. Shots on goal were 10-2. Corners were 8-2. And it was just kind of, you would think like, oh, this one had to be great. This had to be a lot of highlights, and it really was. No. It really wasn't. It's really a testament to just If you attack, if you press, if you play aggressive,
The
you're going to
ball's gonna
create a
go.
lot of opportunities. And that's what SLU did. They gave themselves a lot of opportunities. They created a little chaos in the box, and they got it. The last one, though, I will say, Gaby got the ball before the half line and then just willed this all the way down. It was kind of a breakaway, kind of because Kansas City's pressing high and trying to score, trying to get one back. So she only had one defender to beat and wound up with a 2-on-1. I can't remember who her teammate was, whether it was Larson or somebody, but she kept it herself. And her initial attempt was stopped, and then she got her own rebound and put it away. But I mean, she just absolutely willed that one. She beat everybody down the field and willed it in. It was pretty cool. And that was probably more of a highlight than any of the other ones on the day. But yeah, if you create these opportunities, they're eventually going to start going in.
Pete, run us down the stats on this one.
Yeah, I mean, so 22-2 in shots, 10-2 shots on goal, 8-2 corners. It was all SLU all day. Saves were 5-2, but in Kansas City's favor, just a testament to how many shots we were taking. Fouls were pretty even. Kansas City wound up with 3 yellow cards. SLU wound up with 2, basically back to back. There were 3 yellow cards in this game within the span of 3 minutes in the second half. So things got a little chippy there after SLU started scoring. All 5 yellows in the second half. But yeah, it was a physical game. It wasn't pretty. It looked very, very hot. They had some hydration breaks. But SLU seemed to kind of get their mojo back in the second half there. And hopefully that's enough momentum to get them going through the rest of the schedule.
Men's soccer, not a great start. And it's not looking much better, to be honest with you, tonight. We'll get into tonight's game, but first we got to talk about the 3-1 loss at Louisville on Thursday the 25th. It looked the start. Honestly, I'm gonna be honest. It was against the run of play. Leggett. Well, actually, the Billikens had a goal called off. However, eventually they took the lead on a goal by Eric Leggett in the 17th minute. John Klein had a touch on it. Louisville keeper saved it. Rebound went to Leggett, who put it away. Louisville tied it in the 29th minute by on a goal by Makumba Ba, which is a great friggin' name. I mean, all 3 of these Louisville goals were absolute bangers.
Yeah, they were. He scored on the cross.
I can't even sit here and be like, look, the Billikens should have won that game. Louisville scored like 3 world-class goals.
They did. They earned all 3 of those goals. First one was off a cross, like you said, in the 29th minute. Really good shot. The second one was another great name, by the way, 66th minute, Abubakar Kamara to make it 2-1. And then Bryce LaBelle scored off a corner in the 75th minute. I'm just going to keep rolling through that. Zach, Louisville outshot SLU 12-5 in this one and just kind of looked like the better team.
Yeah, I mean, they were. It is what it is. These Billikens are rebuilding. I think we hoped they were reloading, but it really is starting to look like more of a rebuild, Pete.
Yeah, I think so. I thought so with the transfers and everything. I kind of thought we had more on paper anyway. I thought our back line was going to be really solid, really strong. And I thought maybe scoring would be a little more of a challenge this year. But it seems like we're leaking more goals than I would have anticipated, at least in these first couple games.
Yeah, I think we're unsure of what is going to happen with our goalkeeping situation.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the Israeli keeper, I can't think of his name right now. Yuval. I don't have it in front of me, honestly.
Yeah, I'll look it up. Sorry, there's another. I've got the box score up right now, and we're not playing him tonight.
No, we're not. Number 1 is playing for us tonight.
Carlos Tofern is playing tonight.
Yeah.
Mason Hart hasn't played yet. The other keeper, Yuval Sade.
Yuval Sade, thank you. Yuval Sade started that game at Louisville, and Yeah, I don't know. We're gonna see where the season goes, and it's kind of frustrating. Obviously we were ranked 10th. We were ranked 10th. That's clearly a legacy ranking at this point.
Hmm.
And I don't think we'll be anywhere near that after this week because currently the Billikens are down 2-1 to Lipscomb. Lipscomb has looked every bit as good as SLU in this game. I turned it on in about the 10th minute and it was 1-1 already. And then just about 5 minutes ago, if you're watching on YouTube, you saw me cringe really hard and Lipscomb took the lead. So, and there's about 15 minutes left to go. We'll update at the end of this podcast, I think, because I doubt it'll take us less than 15 minutes to finish this show. Yeah, it's not looking great so far, honestly, Pete.
No, it's a tough start, and we've kind of gotten spoiled because
Mm-hmm.
they went undefeated last year. We
They did.
we don't know. Well, I'm sorry, until the Elite Eight.
Yes.
But yeah, we didn't know what it was like to lose in the regular season. For a couple of years here, so it's been a little jarring to start out. This rocky in the season, and you hope it's something that they can correct and kind of I think Kalish is probably figuring out his best lineup and everything like that.
And
And
not to mention, you've got a bunch of players who are learning to play this style. You've got a lot of guys that aren't Gallagher guys that didn't grow up with Kalish. Last year, you had a bunch
yep,
of guys that grew up with Kalish. A lot of guys who understood what Kalish wanted. And Kalish has this style that he plays is extremely high pressing. It's extremely aggressive. It's a lot of I forget the word that it is, but if you lose the ball, you immediately try to win it back. And
yeah,
that's kind of what this style is. And I don't know if they're getting it right away because it seems like we're being aggressive, but we're being passed around.
yeah, I think that's right. I mean, what's not in question though is how much talent there is on this roster.
Right.
And if I were, Lipscomb and who, by the way, I know they're not a big name. They are a very good program.
Yes.
They were a tournament team last year. This is not a cupcake. Um, but if I'm Lipscomb or Louisville or some of these other teams, you're lucky to be playing SLU early in the year. I think it's going to be a lot harder by
Yes.
the time they're in A10 and more familiar with each other and with style play.
Yeah, you're just not seeing sharpness out there.
Right.
You're not seeing, the high level of play that we're expecting or that we expected after last season, and it's frustrating, but that's just how it is right now. And I think we've got to give them, we like. I think the litmus test is what happens when we enter conference play because really at the end of the day, like yeah, we've got an insane pedigree. We've got 10 national championships going back to the 50s, but we haven't won one since the 70s.
Right.
And I think the point is we got to see how they do in the A10 because that's the real like. Okay, are they good? Can they win the A10? Because if they can win the A10 and go to the NCAA tournament, that's positive with a rebuild.
Right.
So we'll see how this goes. Hopefully, in the next 12 minutes and 45 seconds, they can come back and get an equalizer and at least salvage 1 point. By the way, don't forget there are new rules this year with overtime. No overtime in the regular season. Nothing at all. So 90 minutes and that's it. On the volleyball side, I mean, we gonna Cat Miller gets his 300th career win out of like 650 career games. So,
And number 164 at SLU.
yeah, sure. 3-0 win versus Little Rock. 25-23, 25-23, 25-14. Mac Hill, she was a bright spot last year. She came on late in the season and played really well. She was really great backing up, help me out, Pete. Sorry, I don't have it in front of me. She just went pro.
You're the volleyball expert,
Yeah,
but I think you're talking about Maya Taylor.
Yes, Maya Taylor. Thank you. She did a great job coming in and helping out Maya Taylor on the offensive end. 11 kills in this one. Carly Rogers, 15 digs. Katie Opperly, 21 assists. Arkansas State, this one's actually a good win, Pete. Arkansas State's a team that beat them last year 3-1. I believe it was in St. Louis, too. Billikens win the first set 28-26. Drop an absolute stinker 25-12 in the second set, and I think I was about ready to have a coronary at that point.
Yeah.
They dropped the third set 25-20 and then come back and win two straight to win the match 25-11, 15-11, and wipe the sweat off your brow on that one. So hey, that's a decent win. Arkansas State, not a bad program, but look, I mean, I think at the end of the day, if you were to lose that game to a guy who just got his first head coaching win the day before, I think we're gonna have some problems. Mac Hill again, 14 kills. Lynn, 21 assists. Rogers, 21 digs. Mississippi Valley State, maybe the worst team in Division One. The Billikens beat them 3-0. 25-13, 25-9, 25-8. It wouldn't have surprised me if the Billikens would have won 25-0 in this game. I mean, they had 2 wins last season, and one of them was against an NAIA school. So just not a good program at all. I mean, yeah, it's just I won't even get into it. Fitz and Richardson, 6 kills apiece. Lynn, 12 assists. Kiefer, 10 digs. This seems like a game where the Billikens just kind of threw everybody out there and just said, hey, go play.
Yeah, I think so. You're seeing normally in volleyball, you're going to see more or less the same names leading the stats. So when you don't, it's like, oh, okay, clearly the freshman got some run here.
Yeah, I don't really know what to make of any of these games except for Arkansas State. That's a positive win. The next up will be Billiken Invitational this weekend. Youngstown State, Central Michigan, and St. Thomas come to town. Again, not a high level of competition. Central Michigan would be probably the most decent team in there. So we'll see how this goes. Speaking of Central Michigan, the field hockey team went to Michigan and played Central Michigan and Michigan State, Pete.
They did, and it's in East Lansing, and we've kind of talked about this before about how field hockey sort of pods these things together. They're not really MTEs or tournaments, but to kind of make travel easier. So they play Central Michigan and East Lansing. It was a close game. The stats were really even, but they dropped it 2-0. Sasha Sanders, Slu's goalie, had 6 saves. And then today, Sunday, as we record this, yesterday, as you might be listening to this, 6-1 loss at Michigan State. It was actually 4-0 until very late in the fourth quarter. Olivia French for SLU has a breakaway goal with less than 4 minutes to go. And then, of course, Michigan State scores 2 more before it was over. I think probably they might have been upset that they allowed one in there. It's just different playing a Big Ten team. SLU was outshot 26-7. 16-3 shots on goal. Sander had 9 saves in this one. She was pretty good, but obviously those 2 late ones make it look a little worse than it probably was. And then next up, they'll play in Iowa City, taking on Boston University on the 3rd, and then Iowa on the 4th. Iowa, you'll recall, last season was number 2 when SLU played up there and lost 10-0. I don't believe they're ranked at the moment, so I think they've probably lost a lot of what they had last year. But regardless, that's another big test.
It's going to be a tough game. I mean, everything's a tough test when you really don't have any institutional support. Full marks to field hockey for taking on any challenge they can. Best of luck to them. And I'm hoping there'll be games streamed at some point this season. I'd really like to watch a little bit. On the cross-country side, they head to Mizzou on September 1st. Obviously, that won't be streamed, as has never been a thing. Pete, any last thoughts before we head out?
Just one more word of congratulations to my co-host Zach. Nicely done with the triathlon today, man. I know I know after your last one, you were a little traumatized with the fall. Oh yeah, there. So our YouTube listeners, he just held up our YouTube watchers, viewers. He just held up his age group first place medal. That's great. But yeah, I mean, this guy got out there pretty quickly after really messing up his body with a nasty spill on that bike, and now he's not just back out there finishing, but finishing first. And Zach, well done, and you need to go get some rest, and you deserve it.
Sober up a little bit.
That too,
Yeah,
but at least you're
yeah.
already home.
Yeah, thank you, Pete, for those kind words. That wraps up the week that was in Billiken Athletics. Follow us on Twitter at Midtown Mad Pod, at Peter is a tweeter, at Zach Miller MMP, and on Instagram at Midtown Mad Pod. If you want to drop us a line, you can email us at midtownmadnesspod at gmail.com. Please don't spam our inbox. We also appreciate any and all suggestions you have for the show. You can drop them on Twitter or an email. Please go subscribe to the show on all platforms. And if you haven't left a review, do that with a little 5 stars to go along with it. As always, Pete, go Bills.
Go Bills.